Our story begins in the 1820s in Nagujawanong, now known as Peterborough County. Long before Europeans were surveying the area and clearing it for agriculture, it was the traditional hunting and fishing grounds of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. Relationships between the Mississauga and other First Nations were often negotiated through treaties.
This form of diplomacy continued to be used as early Europeans and First Nations negotiated where and how settlers could use the land. The Royal Proclamation of 1763, a treaty initiated by the British Crown, stated that lands west of established colonies would remain Indigenous grounds and were off-limits to settlement. These areas could only be acquired through treaties between the Crown and Indigenous peoples. Treaty 20, also known as the Rice Lake Purchase, was signed at present-day Port Hope in 1818. It enabled the settlement of over 1 million acres, including Peterborough County. In exchange, the government was supposed to pay in goods to every man, woman, and child, about $9 per person at this time. These were listed as 2 blankets, cloth for 1 coat, 1 pair of trousers, 2 shirts, several small articles besides a gun, ammunition, kettles, and other items.
Prior to colonization in the Peterborough area, the Mississauga would have enjoyed a relatively traditional way of life. In the early 1820s, the Mississauga began adopting an additional spiritual political outlook brought to them by the New England Company and Methodist teachings. The first mission house in Peterborough County was built at Rice Lake, present-day Hiawatha First Nation. This Methodist church would later become Hiawatha United. Later, in the 1820s, an area along the north shore of Rice Lake was officially designated as a reserve under the name of the Mississaugas of Rice Lake Reserve. 22 homes were built near the banks of the lake. A square for public buildings was left in the middle. The village also boasted a store and post office, a schoolhouse, and teachers' residence. The Mississauga around Mud Lake settled on a reserve in 1830 in an area now known as Curve Lake First Nation. Prior to colonization, the Mississauga would not have lived in traditional villages. They followed a transient lifestyle, traversing well-developed trails from one camp to the next. A wigwam, or roundhouse, would have been a traditional dwelling constructed from bent saplings and bark from various trees such as birch, cedar, hickory, and basswood, and it would have been designed to accommodate a multi-generational family unit. Manoomin, or wild rice, is a sacred food for the Anishinaabe and was a crucial form of sustenance long before the Trent Severn waterway flooded wetlands used for harvesting the rice. A camp like this might have also included a garden with traditional healing medicines like sweetgrass, sage, tobacco, and cedar. One of the ways the Mississauga manipulated the landscape was through planned burning. These controlled burns promoted the growth of their medicines and renewed growth. It would only be a decade before the first residential school, the Mohawk Institute in Brantford, was established. Members of the reserves at Mud Lake and Rice Lake began attending the residential schools in the 1840s. Though members were initially interested in sending their children, this soon changed as word spread of strict assimilation and abuse.